Hello students, this video is for you to refer to for makeup or for just review. This goes along with your senses reading that we did in class last week. Please check Google Classroom for the day of that reading, and this will need to go in your notebook. Please put this on a sheet of notebook paper and put the date up at the top in the upper right hand corner. You will need to have the 4 triangles on your paper, and they need to be pretty big. So go ahead and make this. This should be most of the page. You can have some space around the sides if you want. We're going to go through some of the information that we have covered about response to stimuli. This is the unit that we're in right now, just as a reminder. And we're going to look at the stimuli. We've looked at the overall process of the body receiving some sort of stimulus, and then what the body does in order to process that, and then what the possible reactions are. We're going to focus today just on a small part of that, and we're going to look at the different types of stimuli, and we're going to see how the body sends that information to the brain. So the first thing that I would like for you to write down is this part right here. So this is the basic pathway that we're always going to have to find in order for this signal to get to the brain. So we're going to have a stimulus that's outside the body. That stimulus is going to be detected by a receptor, and the stimulus is usually outside the body. We'll just say that. That's kind of a general idea. The receptor picks up that stimulus, and the receptor is activated. And once it is activated, it's going to send a message through a nerve, and that message will eventually get to the brain, where the brain can process it. And we spent some time talking about that processing, and we'll spend a little bit more time talking about it. But for today, let's focus on this stimulus and receptor part. There are 3 different types of stimuli. There are chemical stimuli, electromagnetic stimuli, and there are mechanical stimuli. Go ahead and write this down. At any point during the video, you can pause it so that you can catch up. Once you have written down chemical, electromagnetic, and mechanical, pause the video for just a second and see if you can put correct senses with the correct stimuli. Now that you've done that, let's take a look at each one. So for chemical, you should have taste and smell. So the example that I use in class is that if I have a pot of coffee brewing, that pot of coffee is going to give off different chemicals into the air. Some of those chemicals are going to reach my nose as I breathe in, and the olfactory receptors in my nose will pick up those chemicals in the air and send a message to my brain to say, oh, there's yummy coffee being made. Once I pour a cup of coffee and take a drink of it, then the chemicals, the flavor, the chemicals that give the flavor to the coffee will interact with the taste buds on my tongue. Those taste buds will be activated. Information will be sent through a nerve to my brain to say, ooh, that's some yummy coffee. Next is electromagnetic. So electromagnetic is visible light. Our sight picks up visible light. So that is part of the overall electromagnetic spectrum. And I think you guys covered that in 7th grade last year. So our eyes pick this up. Now, to be more specific, because when we were talking in class with the bell ringer, we said, oh yeah, we've got eyes here. But as part of 8th grade, we want to go a little bit farther with that. So specifically for sight, the rods and cones, which are specialized cells on the retina, will pick up the light. And that allows us to perceive visual information in our field of vision. Mechanical is the last kind, and there are 2 things here. So we have touch, which involves physical pressure, and hearing, which involves physical movement of our eardrum, which will move the air or the structures or the liquid within our inner ear. So with touch, we will have receptors that will pick up pressure, and we also have receptors that will pick up hot and cold. There are some other receptors as well that go with touch, but those are two of the more common ones. And then for hearing, when sound waves move the air, then that air will actually vibrate our eardrums in certain ways. And those vibrations will be transmitted into the inner ear um, where we can pick that up as sound. These are all of the receptors that are associated. So taste is associated with taste buds. We've just talked about that. Smell is associated with olfactory receptors. Sight is associated with rods and cones. Touch, we're going to call that kind of a basic overview here, and we're going to say that's free nerve endings. And then for hearing, we're going to say that is our auditory receptors. That's what your notes for today on the pyramid here that goes through all of the different types of stimuli. This is what your notes should look like.